Today's show is brought to you by StreamTech Drift Boats, the world's most versatile drift boat. Find them at www.streamtechboats.com. I kind of feel bad for these people, but at the same time I don't because they're stupid.
Don't see a circle around yourself, just start pissing everywhere.
Oh, I hate the Dutch.
Welcome to our country. So.
She doesn't really look Canadian. She looks almost American.
Just insulted all of Canada.
Oh, every time I say something up, you got If I'd known that before, I would have just interspaced every other sentence with something horrible.
Well,
I haven't felt my feet since I sat down in the chair.
can you see your feet, though?
No. I'd rather do anything else on the planet than go tip a cow over.
How about Canada? Is there any stream access issues up in Canada?
Nobody cares.
Not very much.
Kids, if you don't understand that joke, ask your parents.
Evan, Derek,
Yeah.
Oh, crap, here it comes.
your flies are open.
Thanks.
Grab hold of your flies. This is a podcast for nymphers, strippers, swingers, and dry fly guys. It's the show that brings you stories, instruction, and conservation from three guys who live it every day. This is The Open Fly.
Probably get this too.
Kirk, does that Snoqualmie Valley calendar you have there have a nice centerfold in it?
It's actually not a calendar.
It looks like a calendar from this side.
It does. It's deceiving from the outside. Kind of like I had a deceiving book cover when I was in college. On the outside, it was just kind of a brown paper bag cover, and it said 150 ways to cook natural game meat.
Oh.
And it was hardcore porn is what it was. But nobody knew it when I was sitting there thumbing through the recipes.
Was that in Dirty 230? Human sexuality class?
I think it was optional reading.
Yeah.
I audited that class.
All right, we're off to a good start.
Well,
We've been gone.
We have. How long? A month and a half?
It seems longer than that.
I think I've since the last time we've met, I've had pretty much my entirety of my fall steelhead season. So it'd be at least September, the last time we were here, and it's November 12th, 13th right now.
I've been a worthless...
no, we did an October show, I think.
We did.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I guess we did. We did one at the very beginning of October for the Met Howe River because I remember
First, yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the Met Howe the week after that. So
it's like a hangover a little bit. We had our 21st, and it's like,
yeah,
I'm not going to podcast again for a while ever. Guys, hold me to that. And then here we are.
Yeah, you always go back to the bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody's wondering where we've been, between all of us having real jobs and real lives, I feel like I'm working 3 jobs right now, which I kind of am. And Derek being on the river a lot, guiding the Yakima Fall fishery. Sounds like it was a good time this year.
It was a very good fall. Yeah.
Awesome.
It was a nice fall.
And Kirk, I don't know what
Coloring.
Kirk does. He's coloring books,
Eating crayons.
And then on top of that, it's just we go through phases of having a hard time keeping guests on board and things like that. They have lives too, so we get shows scheduled, and then life comes up for our guests or us, and the show doesn't come through.
We don't have the kind of clout that makes people drop everything for us. No. We have to work on that.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of the Met Howe.
Met Howe. I think it's a softer T.
Meth Howe.
Howe.
I always say Met Howe.
Met Howe.
Speaking of that river of a valley in north central Washington.
GPS coordinates?
Don't have GPS. Don't even have a phone with me today.
Oh.
Did you lose it?
It's charging in my truck.
Oh.
It's a 4-year-old phone. The battery life lasts about 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So every time I turn around, it says 10%.
I'm surprised you got that new technology.
Yeah. Well,
I see you as like a Nokia bar kind of guy.
I'm thinking about going back to a flip phone.
Yeah?
Really. Anyway, back to the Methow Valley thing. On our last show, we were talking to the guys over there about the river cleanups and whatnot following the Carlton Complex fires. Well, there's an organization over there that released a short video talking about the fires, the devastation, all that, and how FEMA assessed the whole area and didn't send any money in there.
Of course not. Why would they do something like that?
Well, I understand that when you build in a forest fire area, you have to assume some responsibility for your act. But at the same time, when there's a hurricane or a tornado, FEMA goes in there, and there's always a ton of money.
Yeah, name a place in this country where you're not going to have at least some degree of
natural
risk
disaster.
of a natural disaster.
Right.
If it's not hurricanes, it's tornadoes. If it's not tornadoes, it's earthquakes. If it's not earthquakes, it's volcanoes or fires.
Right.
Tsunamis.
And a massive complex
Polar
fire
bears.
like they had there, no money from FEMA. So anyway, they're raising money. And if I had my phone with me, I'd pull up the website where they're accepting donations. But
That's good info. I'll have to look into that.
I
Maybe
would say western Nebraska is pretty safe.
tornadoes.
No, not necessarily western Nebraska, or like the Cheyenne all the way to the the Scottsbluff kind of a western Nebraska kind of a thing. It rarely in the news, at least in terms of an environmental standpoint.
Extreme boredom is a risk.
Yeah, that is a risk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyways,
when you're surrounded by nothing but hundreds of miles of grasslands on either side of you, life will lack excitement.
There's a big reservoir there. I think it's McConaughey or some sort of
Matthew
McConaughey Reservoir. I had to take a detour around that thing one time because a bridge had washed out. Oh, so then I'm contradicting myself. There was an environmental issue.
All right.
Anyways, it's like a 6-hour detour to go around this huge lake.
Why were you there?
Visiting family.
Oh, sorry.
It's good times.
Yeah. It's good times. So
well, anyway,
maybe I'll dip into the growing bank account for the Open Flag podcast and send them some of our own FEMA, non-FEMA, anti-FEMA money.
There we go. Maybe during a commercial break, we can pull up that giving website and figure it out.
Do you know the name of it again, you said, or no?
Well, if you go on to Faceplace, on my Faceplace, I posted a link to it yesterday. I pledged. Not much, but I guess every little bit makes a difference.
Kurt Wagner's page.
Yeah. Kurt Wagner.
Kurt Warner, Super Bowl champion.
You posted something about the rise of the lumber sexual. Did you know you posted
No, David Ratchford posted that.
And did he tag you? He's like, hey, look, you have a Carhartt and sometimes a scruffy beard going on. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
is it the lumbersexual is supposed to be replacing the metrosexual?
Yeah, something like that.
So is it becoming a hipster thing?
It's like lager hipsters.
Oh, God.
Skinny jeans.
So now I'm going to have to shave my beard and get rid of my Carhartts just so I'm not associated with this?
Yeah, it's basically skinny jeans, flannel, grow yourself a nice beard, and I think you had to have either gone to Western.
Oh, okay. I'm safe.
Or like maybe some sort of other small, very liberal arts college, maybe even like University of Puget Sound.
Hipsters ruin everything.
Yeah.
It's a flannel, skinny jeans, big beard, short hair, kind of a Morrissey look from the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, thankfully I don't have any skinny jeans, so I don't qualify.
This time of year, I just have a bunch of fat jeans.
Yeah.
Because I'm not rowing as much, and so my jeans become fat jeans.
Yeah.
I'm into the yoga pants this time of year.
Like you wearing them? Or?
The little downward dog right
I
here.
don't want to see anything downward at all. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'd like to stay downward, if you know what I mean.
Upwind of that.
Well,
So you posted the rise of the lumbersexual.
No, I did not post that.
Something about damnation. There it is, right there.
Did you hear I'm becoming a fashion designer?
I knew a little bit about that.
Yeah, heard you design the logo for the company.
Yeah.
We're kind of sort of slowly leaking this info, but some big announcements coming from my employer soon.
You're making Patagonia very nervous.
Are we?
I think so.
You can visit Carlton Complex fire information and how to provide disaster relief at ccanrelief.org. That's ccanrelief.org.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll pull that up and send some monies. But yeah, I hope hipsters discover my clothes in the future when we actually release them, because there's a lot of money to be made in that.
I don't think it's going to be hipsters. It's going to be
Lumbersexuals?
Lumbersexuals, or Metro Jacks is what they're calling them.
Metro Jacks. God. What the hell is the world come to?
And what's sexual about it? I don't get that part.
Well, you remember back when it was like metrosexual, like if you were a man living in the city and you didn't dress like you lived in the woods, it was like those dumb pointed leather Italian shoes and
just
I don't get it.
there's probably some lumbersexuals listening to the show.
There, call in, send us your feedback.
Yeah, tell us exactly what it is to be a lumbersexual.
Explain yourselves.
Oh, this is sickening. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, flannel's a big part of it, so I think it's probably a Northwest thing, but who knows?
They say that all fashion trends start in New York, but this one?
This did not start in New York.
No, this one probably started in Cedro Woolley.
Look that up on a map if you don't know what we're talking about.
I'm going to say it has some fairly strong roots, like in Ballard.
Duval.
Ballard, kind of Magnolia, kind of a thingy.
It's funny, as actually the listener who made us our, that's sitting over there, the insult generator. There we go.
Oh, yes.
Lucas, the guy that owns the winery, he actually came up fishing to the Northwest recently and came and visited and went to dinner with me and whatnot. And says when he got here, he's like, "You guys make Duval sound like the biggest shithole I've ever heard of, and it's actually a really nice little town." So it kind of ruined the magic for him.
Well, we don't want it to get out that Duval is a magical little place.
It's a total shithole though, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That nice little calendar you've got there really talks about all the history and the pros and the cons. Mm-hmm. It's a nice little PR piece.
I think this is really talking about Carnation upstream. Anything below Carnation and Duval is just kind of a skanky slough, where there's hardly any current to the river, stagnant, smelly, inbred people down here.
If you're looking forward to Monroe, that perhaps might put Duval in a good light, but
that's a whole different county. So
yeah, they don't count. Still. And they have a Walmart now, so they even just went down a notch.
They got a Walmart and a penitentiary, so
Well, there are worse things than that.
Yeah,
I can't name any.
They used to have a fly shop. I miss all about that.
I bet you within a year that Duval will be overrun with metrosexual lumberjack metros
that bought their flannels at Walmart in Monroe.
Yeah.
No, this is expensive stuff. You're not talking about, this is like Filson.
Oh.
Kind of an expensive handcrafted stuff.
They're not going to Goodwill and buying their flannels and wearing them ironically.
It's not thrift shop kind of deal. It's like, they might have a really, really expensive bike instead of a car.
Mm-hmm.
And
fixed gear.
$300 Italian leather boots and skinny jeans and big beards.
Awesome.
If that's you, write in and tell us about it.
I wonder, do they know how to operate chainsaws and power equipment?
I think that's the paradigm there, is that it's the lumber sexual. I look like I'm lumbering.
I get it.
Or a lumberer.
I get it.
Lumbosity, something like that.
Troubling.
Yeah.
Troubling.
So
it is troubling.
Yeah.
Where as a regular person are you to fit in if you like to wear flannel and you have a beard but you don't wear skinny jeans?
Yeah,
that's me. Yeah. I have a beard and flannels and don't wear skinny jeans, and I have no friends.
Well, but it's your coif as well. You have a very close shaven head.
Yeah,
and I think another hallmark of the lumber sexual is it's like a very finely maintained coif.
That's not even an option for me.
No. But if you grew it out and kind of did like a, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
We're dwelling on it.
Let's talk about fish.
Yeah, I just forgot that we were actually on the
air. we were really, really into this lumber
in
thing.
3, 2, 1.
We're back
and we're live.
So we get accused of talking too much about West Coast steelhead and West Coast wildfish, but that's where we live. And actually, I think it's been several shows since we've really dwelled on that too much outside of the Methow fire thing. But Derek, there's a new Trout Unlimited thing happening that's going to take up some steelhead conservation too.
Yeah, it's Wild Steelheaders United. It's a TU initiative, so it's an exciting time.
I'm excited. Yeah. So I've always thought one thing was really weird about Trout Unlimited. They're really strong and have a lot of influence and a lot of pull everywhere except for where trout are native. Mm-hmm. So to see them actually coming in here, and I mean, they've always been here, but they're not really the most visible of the conservation groups. So, and they do a lot of great stuff, throughout the country. So I'd like to see that same mentality brought to
trout are native from other parts of the country where TU is historically strong.
Not rainbow trout.
Well, you didn't say rainbow trout. You just said trout.
Yeah, well, you're talking, brook trout are not trout. They're char.
True.
Brown trout are not trout.
They're salmo.
They're salmos.
They're also not native.
Right.
Well, German browns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so
sorry.
I don't know. I thought that was just cool to see that they're kind of changing what they're doing here, adding to what they're doing here to kind of cater more to what actually happens here.
It's a 5-state launch: Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Idaho,
California.
Nice.
Maybe not even. It's Alaska, yeah.
And there's a meeting, isn't there?
On the 20th, there's one in your town if you live in one of those states. I know there's one in Seattle.
And is it open to the public, or is it kind of
It is. It is open to the public. It is sort of a membership drive / information session on what this program is going to do.
And are any of us going to be there signing autographs?
I'll be there.
All right. I might show up, too.
Yeah.
I haven't been contacted.
We just contacted you about it. Actually, Derek's the one. Derek's the TU guy of the three of us, so he's got more info. I just know what I've read on the book face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's cool. If you're in the area, look into it. It could grow into something pretty cool.
I think it's Boise, Juneau,
Z and Boise.
Oh yeah, Boise, Juneau, Seattle, Portland, and Northern California somewhere. I want to say
Redding, maybe?
Eureka?
Okay. I don't know.
But you find it on, go tu.org. You'll find information about it.
Oh,
sweet.
www.
I like seeing things like that.
I feel like there's a little momentum building towards, the issue of our native wild anadromous rainbow trouts.
I would agree.
Shane Anderson has a lot to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And there's, there's a lot of momentum gaining in the antiquated, derelicted dam removal world. So
didn't you watch something on the Netflixter recently?
I did. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
A week ago or so, I lent my electronic signature to a petition to get President Obama to tear down some dams. Particularly,
what did he say?
Well, he hasn't been presented with the petition yet. 50,000 signatures are needed, and last I checked, there were less than 15,000 still needed.
I'll have to put one on there.
Yep. Anyway, particularly of interest are 4 dams on the Snake River, which really need to go away because they're run-of-river dams. They generate very little electricity, if any, because they don't pool water behind them. Mm-hmm. They're basically put in place for barge passage upriver, series of locks. And ironically, there is a perfectly good railway that follows the river all the way to the coastal port.
Yep.
So these dams that are federally operated are a drain on taxpayers. They're stand in the way of migrating fish.
They warm that river way up.
Yep. And so, like Reagan said to Gorbachev, tear down those dams.
I think that's not what the...
Is that what he said?
Yeah, I don't know. Revisionist history on the Open
Well,
podcast.
it was 1987, so what were you doing in 87?
Kicking it.
Your mom.
Coloring books.
Coloring books. So was I.
87, wow.
That was 20...
You were looking at hardcore porn in a grocery sack book cover in 3230.
I was 3. I was 3 years old.
Holy.
I was 24.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 16. Well, it all kind of comes together. We've got another filmmaker talking about the plight of wild steelhead on the show today.
Yeah.
And if you're making a film about something that's not a wild steelhead, we would like to showcase you too. I just haven't really seen. I don't want to showcase you too, like the band, but you as well.
Any kind of topic, fair game.
I mean, if it's a fish or a cause that needs protecting, but it seems like there's a lot of really good quality films coming out for wild steelhead. I haven't seen a whole lot for other fish, and if there is, I'd like to know about it.
Well, here's the interesting thing is that the films that are coming out, especially when so there's one in particular called Buck Nasty Browns. The boys from Montana Wild are doing.
Yep.
So they created a little stink in the local.
I heard some people were very upset about
river
that film.
Community because they're from Montana and they came into Oregon and they made a movie about this
it's
fishery.
because of the hot spotting.
The River X.
The River X, yeah.
It's a river that's been mentioned on this before, in the show before.
Oh,
but,
plenty of times.
They got some flack because they basically drove out of state, went to somebody else's home waters, and hot spotted in a film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I can see both sides of that. Like somebody came to my local quote unquote secret spots and made a film and basically told you exactly where it was and what it was called. I'd probably be a little upset too.
Well, particularly I've never been there, but it seems to me that it's a river that's fairly sensitive because it's a desert stream.
Right.
It's a tailwater.
Yeah, and it can't.
But it wasn't a conservation film, right?
No, it was a,
It was a flat brim,
puffy coat,
yeehaw. Definitely not Metro Jack. I mean, these guys are the real deal. They go out and they kill stuff all the time. They're not afraid to get blood in their hands.
All right.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about today is a little bit different than that. It's also got a TU tie, so we should probably get to Russ.
Yeah. What's his name? What's his film? What's his thing? I watched it. It was a great film. But
so this is a film project called Wild Fish Works, and from the title, it is about how you can how wild fish should work in a societal, cultural, and economic way with all the different resources that are being used at the time. So it's got some people we've had on the show before. Jeff Hickman from Fish to Swing is highlighted in this short little film. So we're going to talk with Russell Schnitzer about Wild Fish Works, and he's also affiliated with TU, so we can talk about that as well.
Sweet.
He's quite a photographer.
A great photographer and a damn fine human being.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Nice. I like those.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to meeting him on the air.
But hearing him.
Didn't you hear him in his film?
Well, I was only able to get partway through. I kept getting a playback error. Sometimes
technology's hard for guys your age.
It is. It's we're late adopters.
Yeah.
Just got my first microwave oven.
Popcorn at Kirk's. Let's have some popcorn at Kirk's.
I have a microwave, and I can't tell you the last time I used it. I don't find them to be.
Is it a secret? Is it a secret? You don't know the words, or you just don't know? You haven't used it?
No, I don't know. I think I'm kind of a snob when it comes to my food prep.
You are.
Yeah. Anybody that knows me and the things that I eat and drink, I'm discerning. That's the word to put it.
It's a generational difference because
your generation.
We were just happy to have any kind of processed food available to us at the time. Damn it!
Yeah, you're happy to have your Wonder Bread and your Kraft cheese slices.
Fig Newtons, baby.
Yeah,
pecan sandies.
And we need locally sourced, grass-fed. It's cooked in a cast iron skillet.
Yeah.
And I joke, but that's actually how things work in my house.
It's kind of Metro Jack of you, though.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. See, there's a little of that going on.
Metro Jack going in there. You are a closet Metro Jacker.
I walked right into that one.
Can I say that on the air? Can I say Metro Jacker on the air?
Yeah.
Scritchy, scratchy.
All right. Well, let's Metro Jack off into into a commercial break here.
Oh, well played. Okay.
Alrighty then.
All right, we'll be right back.
This is Derek, and on behalf of Stream Tech Boats, I want to talk to you about three factors that I consider really important when you're choosing a drift boat, and that's safety, fun, and performance. These are the safest drift boats around to float out of. They're fun to row, and from a performance standpoint, if you're a professional on the water, all three of these factors are important. So let's take a second to hear from the man who designed the boat himself.
I tried pretty much everything, but just none of them were really doing what I wanted. So we set out to design a boat. I'd call it the one boat that would maneuver like the hard boats, that would go in the really rough places, that would float high, that would have all the amenities that come on a hard boat with anchor systems and good leaning, a very nice flat floor that you can inflate hard, that you can stand on, no bolts, no nuts, no pins, no clips, nothing to put it together. For the reasons that it's so good for fishing, it got this rocker, and so it pivots quickly, and it slides out on the foam pile when you come off big drops. That rocker just climbs right out on the foam pile. A total game changer.
So there you have it. My recommendation, Link's words. Look for us at www.streamtechboats.com. Call Link directly. He'll answer that phone, and he'll get you on your way towards the best drift boat on the market.
Now back to the Open Fly.
Well, welcome back from your short break. If you took
why you got the short reference? It was a break.
I was looking at you too when I said
Yeah,
that.
you were.
I think it was more the stare that you gave him when you said it than the actual content of it.
I'm sorry, whatever duration of break you took, I hope you enjoyed it, whether it was short or long, or tall or short, or whatever.
How about a thick break?
You can have a thick break if you want.
Okay.
Girthy?
A girthy break.
Mine was
I hope
girthy.
you enjoyed a girthy break. We're going to be talking about...
Speaking of girthy.
Yes, social, cultural, and economic issues as it relates to wild fish, and we're going to do that via discussion with Russell Schnitzer and his new film coming out called Wild Fish Works. So, Russ, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. Glad to be here.
Your audio quality is superb. I just wanted to let you know
That's
that.
very good.
Yeah, better than most of our guests.
Yeah. So you're already one of the better guests we've had.
Wait,
I'm glad your standards are so low.
You're the only guest we have today, too.
yeah, so you should feel good about that.
I mean, Spotlight is on.
Spotlight's on.
No pressure.
So, Russ, let's talk about this short film you have. It's called Wild Fish Works. Tell us how this came about and what you'd like to see accomplished via the message that's within this film.
Sure. Yeah, the film originally was a little bit of a brainstorm product from some time spent with an old friend and colleague of mine, Alan Moore, who has worked for Trout Unlimited for, I don't know, 15, 18 years in the Pacific Northwest, based in Portland. And Alan and I had been batting around this idea for a long time, over the course of probably 3-4 years. And it really evolved into something that we decided we really need to put this into motion. We need to make a film about this. One, I think, as much as I want to just do still photography, because compared to videography, still photography is like a vacation. But I recognize the fact that in today's world, motion and video is just there's such a hunger for it, and it's a very effective way to get a message out.
It's the shiny object.
Yeah.
What's that? Sorry.
It's the shiny object.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People
right,
see
right.
it. Yeah.
It's powerful. Yeah. It's really powerful. It's engaging, and to be able to really get the message out in an effective way, there was no other choice. So we started to think about what a storyboard might look like. I guess this was about 2 years ago now, and it was almost exactly a year ago that we started filming. And this, it was. I feel like we had a pretty good crew of people on the hook to help out. Great folks like Peter Hayes and Jeff Hickman, and who's been on the show, I think.
I think so too.
There's just there's a lot of people that are willing to share their examples and their perspective, and that's we wanted to give a voice that wild fish conservation and the future of wild fish, at least in the state of Oregon, hopefully a little bit more regionally, but on the Oregon coast, the future of wild fish is one that is going to be rooted in collaboration and in compromise. And there's a lot to be gained from tapping into how various entities, how a lot of different people value wild fish, or how they relate to wild fish beyond just fishing. As much as I'd like to tell just that story, wild fish are much bigger than that. So that was the impetus, and I really set out to do something that was closer to 9 or 10 minutes in length. The only films I'd done previously, I'd done one that was 9 minutes long, I guess, previously, a carp fishing film. But, most of the stuff that I have done has been in the 3 to 4 minute range. So 10 minutes seemed like a pretty ample chunk. But it ended up being just a little over 11. I still think it's, as much as I'd like to continue editing for the rest of the foreseeable future, I'm pretty happy with where things are right now. And, it's when you step back from it and think about trying to wrap together 4 different examples, 4 different stories that comprise the whole. Doing that in 11 minutes is a challenge no matter what. So I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It's hard to step away from these things, but I'm glad it's over, and I'm glad to be thinking about the next projects at this point. But the thing that really did slow it down in the process, though, we had everything filmed by, I think, the end of February of this year, and the editing process, of course, is involved. But I thought that we were probably on track to have something ready by early summer. And that was kind of my objective. Well, my wife was pregnant at the time with our first child, and he decided to arrive 7 weeks early, the first week of June, and that kind of threw the rest of my summer off the table. So that was the resulting delay. You just kind of have to roll with it, and that's probably a good lesson going into fatherhood in the first place.
Yeah, but he also owes you, so you'll be able to hold this over his head.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah, I don't have to contrive anything to get that guilt going.
So there's a couple themes in the movie without giving it all away, but one of the strongest themes that I took from this after watching a couple times was something that was said about the economic impact of wild fish, and there was a line in there that wild fish or wild species in general have become a liability to work, and you used that as part of the title of this movie. Tell me a little bit more about explore that how wild fish are a liability to getting work done.
Yeah, and I should. One of the edits that I would make if I was able to go back to that desk is I would say they've been labeled as a liability. They aren't necessarily, I hate to say it as a blanket statement, and that was, if there's one thing I could correct, it's that. Yeah, they've been labeled as a liability by a lot of different interests, but I think the liability thing, it just depends on your perspective. But when anything has regulatory protection in this country, it tends to carry a negative stigma. And certain species of wild salmon and steelhead do have regulatory protections. And as such, those regulatory protections are perceived to be obstacles by people that would otherwise prefer that the federal government wasn't involved. So what we really were trying to do is demonstrate value and show the relationship, the strength of those relationships, and the role that they play socially, economically, culturally, and that is anchored in something that's much bigger than an ESA listing or any other kind of state or federal regulatory protection. That wild salmon are important in and of themselves. Mm-hmm. And that to me is something that was really the premise for the whole thing. It's showing that wild fish work for a lot of different economic interests. And in this film, we show agriculture, logging, sport fishing, even commercial or residential real estate development. And that's those things, they don't necessarily, other than sport fishing, they don't necessarily depend on wild fish, but they've found ways to benefit from their existence, from their proliferation. Mm-hmm. And that's, I believe that's a real powerful message to get out there. It's, obstacles, however we perceive them, obstacles, they're not necessarily absolute. They can be overcome, and they can be worked around. And for people that are really creative and innovative, they can be turned on their head and turned into an advantage. And that's what we've got to get to that point. I think if we're going to strike the right balance for a future for wild fish in the Pacific Northwest, there's got to be a stronger voice for people that are taking advantage of the fact that these fish exist.
Mm-hmm. One of the challenges from that economic standpoint is that in terms of wild fish, the fly fishing community, or the fishing community in general, has really kind of owns that in terms of the messaging. So how is this film going to bridge that gap between? Let's talk about the home buyer that's looking at a new home that's close to a salmon stream, and convincing them that the extra money that they're going to pay for a development is worth it to have wild fish close by, if they're not an angler.
It is a difficult gap to bridge. There's no question about it, and I don't pretend to have the answers to bridging it effectively in all cases. But I believe that the message that we're trying to convey with this film is that, first of all, there are a lot of people out there that they identify with salmon whether or not they're anglers. That there's a lot of community value associated with wild salmon throughout the region. And we see it everywhere. We see it on the school mascots. We see it on town welcome signs. You see it on restaurants and business names all over the place. There's an identity with fish, and that's a real powerful thing. And it's more than just an icon. The more people can associate with a place and really develop a relationship with a place, the more they tend to value those things. And that's where I feel like, I don't, with the example of the sustainable forestry operation that we profile in the film, what they do is more than just salmon. Salmon are a symbol of the health of the ecosystem as a whole, but salmon do contribute value to the services they provide, in addition to the water quality, the water quantity, the non-game species of wildlife that might exist, the birds, everything else. It's all wrapped up in that added value for on the consumer end. So I guess for speaking to the economics and how these things are marketed, I think that the Hayes family is doing a really good job there in positioning value-added wood products that actually go back to conservation efforts on the ground. And people, whether or not you're an angler, that makes people feel good about the things that they're buying. And that goes a long ways. It's not, we're still talking about micro scale economics here, but it makes a difference on the 5,000 or 7,000 acres that the Hayes family manages, and that in turn has a big impact on a headwater stream that steelhead use for spawning. So it may be micro scale economics, but it's got some pretty big impacts when it comes to the population of steelhead in that particular coastal tributary.
Mm-hmm. So that very point you just made there is not something that that's not really a message you typically get from your standard fly fishing film. When you're talking about micro level economics and how that has a societal impact. And one of the other things I landed on was how complexity is an asset, and I think that directly related to that sustainable logging operation.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah. I mean, people that have seen a fly fishing film before are going to hear different languages and see different themes in this film that they haven't seen before. How is that? How do you see an 11-minute film making a difference in the week after, the month after, the 5 years after this thing is out there?
Yeah, I enjoy good fish porn as much as anybody, and the film tours have been great for community building within fly fishing and within the industry. But I've been motivated for a long time to do something to produce films that are more than just fishing porn. And that's where I think that I want to challenge anglers, especially the anglers that show up to fly fishing film tour shows or to any a local Trout Unlimited chapter showing, screening of any film, it typically energizes a younger audience, definitely a more engaged audience. I want to challenge new and younger fly anglers to think more about how they fit into a bigger picture. It's not just about going out and catching the biggest fish you can every time you go out there. Those fish wouldn't exist if it wasn't for good conservation practices, good stewardship, good policies, a lot of different things. And I want to challenge people to think about the things that add up to those moments that we all are passionate about pursuing. And I feel like that was another one of the fundamental motivations for Wild Fish Works, is challenging the fly fishing community, challenging the fishing community generally to think bigger about fish mean more than just catching, and just catching and releasing, just catching and eating, whatever the case is. Just their very existence is something that is meaningful across the board. And the more we can get people to understand that value and tap into that value, the better off we all are. The more fishing opportunities we'll have, the better those fishing opportunities will be. And the younger that we can get folks engaged in that process and thinking in that way and being more conscious, the brighter our future will be, I feel.
Your son that was just born is already on board with this then?
He has no choice, right? You know, that's
about where we're looking to start him, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
that's the baseline. Yeah.
Another thing too is that if a film is too fishing centric or even fly fishing centric, then its message is going to be lost on the average person who may not be a recreational angler. And those are the people that we really need to become sympathetic to the plight of the wild fish. Fishermen,
that's right.
Fishermen already are. They're on board. They get it. We need the average person who may not care about fishing to understand why these wild fish are important to them. So,
yes.
Yeah.
That's in fact, that's why we spent so much time talking to non-anglers and making this film.
Right.
It needs to relate to. I think about it from the context of, just an average coastal town resident in Oregon. Maybe they go out and gear fish every once in a while. Maybe they fly fish once in a while, but fly fishing isn't their be-all, end-all like it is for a lot of us. They do a lot of other things. They work hard. They've got kids to raise, whatever. They're involved in their community, and those are the people that need to hear these stories.
Yeah.
And they need to see how agriculture and logging and community development and real estate development and all of these things, how they incorporate wild salmon and steelhead into their business plans. And the more that people can understand, they see, I appreciate that fish are around. And of course, most people do. If you ask them point blank on the street, people aren't going to say, "I hate fish." You don't get that reaction very often.
But the importance of them is lost. Yeah, the importance is typically lost.
But the importance,
yeah,
that's right. That's where that's where we start getting into the hair splitting that takes place between hatchery fish and wild fish. And I made a point of saying that this is Wild Fish Works was a deliberate attempt to avoid that debate. But in doing so, in order to avoid that debate effectively, we wanted to focus on heightening the value of wild fish, again, in and of themselves, not in contrast to hatchery fish, but just in and of themselves.
Right.
Hmm. One of the things, Russ, that Jeff says in the segment that he's on is that wild harvest is not a recovery goal. So how do you how do you take that message to the person on the street that every time you have a conversation, it seems like on one of the social media sites, it's why are you fishing if you don't keep them? It's like it's torture to the fish. That conversation always comes up. So to the average person on the street, when you say that that wild fish harvest isn't a recovery goal, how do you get that message to make sense to them?
It is tough. It's a lot of people are brought into. I think back on how I came into fishing as a kid. I was fortunate enough to be raised in a fishing family, and I grew up in northern Minnesota, and there was catch and release wasn't even a concept that was introduced to me until I was in middle school. But as a kid, the only time you released a fish was if there was no feasible way of eating it, and that I guess that has changed a lot. And I think that for more and more people are being brought into fishing with this idea that you don't necessarily have to whack everything you catch, and that there's in fact a lot of value in just the experience of fishing and being able to interact with a fish that is special enough to be released and caught again, as is the case with wild salmon and steelhead. Mm-hmm. And that's, it's not something that's easy to get a non-angler to appreciate. But what you can get a non-angler to appreciate is the fact that, and this is, it's a pretty significant expansion off of what Jeff said in the film, but allowing wild fish harvest doesn't do anything to help their numbers. And there's already rivers that are almost wholly dedicated to hatchery fisheries. If you want to catch fish and eat them, fish there. Go to it. That's what they're for. That's what that public investment is for. And if it's just out of respect for, I think it's what Ed Abbey said a long time ago about wilderness. Just out of respect for their rarity. The whole point is to respect them enough to keep them going. And I feel like there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in that differentiation, and that's where we were really trying to get to with Jeff's segment in the film is talking about what makes wild fish different enough to be valued in this way, different enough to have these kinds of values. And there's still a lot of policy and statute that needs to catch up to that. But for non-anglers, we can't lose sight of the fact that non-anglers just don't differentiate. They don't. They even casual anglers don't really differentiate. A steelhead's a steelhead, a salmon's a salmon.
Yeah, and getting them to understand the difference is a challenge that, I don't even know how you...
every show, basically.
Yeah, how do you... It's just, I don't know if there's a way to do it.
Yeah, what kind of trout are salmon?
Yeah, how... Right.
That wasn't
right. How do we get there?
Yeah.
It's a tough road, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But if people can see that there's especially again non-anglers, if non-anglers can see that there's added value to wild fish beyond just catching them and releasing them, then I think we're taking a pretty big step forward.
Yeah, agreed. Well, Russ, let's start getting our listeners educated on where they can see your film and all that.
Yeah, so we're really excited to be able to be included in the 2015 Fly Fishing Film Tour. We just found out about that this week. So it will be showing at the first showing in Denver, as well as in the premier events in Spokane, Seattle, Portland, Corvallis, and Bend. So we're going to have a good, strong regional presence there. It's also being considered by the Wild and Scenic Film Festival down in Grass Valley, California. Hopefully we'll be able to be a part of that as well. It will be available to the public following the Bend F3T premiere, so that'll be February 11th. And all of this is showing information and as well as the full-length film will be available on the website after February 11th, and the website is wildfishworks.com. We'll be able to include a lot more information there, and I'm also working to get an extended trailer available on the website there, hopefully by the end of next week.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, I think that about wraps all that up then.
Yeah. Great concept for a project.
I like it.
Overdue.
Well,
It's amazing somebody hasn't chosen to cover this already. So good on you.
Well, hopefully we can stimulate some more such projects because I feel like the concept itself lends itself to other geographies. We could talk about the value of, if you look at the situation in Florida right now, you could talk about the value of tarpon bonefish permit and try and put a little bit more pressure on regulatory protection for those fish down there. There's wild brook trout in Appalachia. There's lots of different opportunities to weave these stories together, and I hope that we can stimulate more of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on a quick note, you're also affiliated with TU, correct? If I remember correctly.
I was an employee of Trout Unlimited for 10 years, I guess, in aggregate. Mm-hmm. And I've done a variety of things for Trout Unlimited over the years, most recently agricultural policy work for their Western Water Project. And that's mainly focused on the Colorado River Basin. I still do advise Trout Unlimited on agricultural policy. I still want to be able to do a lot more work for nonprofit conservation organizations. But as of September of this year, I'm a full-time photographer.
Mm. Well, that's what first got me interested in the work you do. Your photography is outstanding, and the videography on this film is very good as well. So.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, and it's not an easy translation to make necessarily, especially for someone that comes with a still photography background. But it's fun to have the challenge. It's a great learning opportunity, and it promises to never be stale. The video production and filming these things, I mean, with the technology changes that you have almost monthly, there's always something new to explore. So it's fulfilling in a lot of ways. It's just really time consuming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just tried to Google your name to look some of your photography, and Google asked, "Did you mean Russian Schnitzel?" I searched Russ Schnitzer, and it says, "Did you mean Russian Schnitzel?"
That's his adult film name.
That's still that's what all the telemarketers call me too. It's
Russ Schnitzel.
I should have just gone with that early on.
Yeah, it's a good Irish name.
Very clever. Very clever.
Good Irish name.
Yeah. Well, that about wraps that up then, I think.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show today, Russ. Great work.
It was
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it very much. And I should say, are we still recording?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No. I turned it off like 2 minutes ago, so this is off the record.
Off the record.
Well, I forgot to give a shout out to the sponsors, and that was a really big oversight on my part, because I got really great support from folks within the fly fishing industry that helped make this whole thing floatable. And Scientific Anglers, Winston Rods, Western Rise, and Fish Pond USA all contributed very generously to the making of this film. So with their support, all this stuff is possible, and it's great to see all of these companies putting that kind of foot forward to support these types of films.
So our listeners also support the conservation causes that we highlight in the film. Is that an option for them with this project, or where would you direct people to?
It is. It's actually a pretty fun time right now, and it bears mentioning, even though it hasn't officially launched just yet, but Trout Unlimited is really digging back into wild steelhead conservation after a lot of years where they just didn't have a big investment in the issue, even though we had a lot of local grassroots involvement. Trout Unlimited did. Trout Unlimited is once again, as a national organization, reinvesting in wild steelhead conservation with a new initiative, and that launches. I think it launches next week. With a couple of different events. So there'll be a lot more information to learn there, tu.org, and I'm sure that they'll have a separate website. But keep an eye out on the socials for that stuff, because I think it's really exciting. It's going to present new opportunities for people to get engaged, and hopefully new opportunities for real good local collaborative conservation to contribute to this debate into the future. So kudos to Trout Unlimited for grabbing the horns of this one again and making sure that something good happens there. And there's also a couple other good organizations I want to mention just to learn more. There's a ton of information available from the Wild Salmon Center, from Native Fish Society. There's great resource protection being done by Western Rivers Conservancy. Just check out all of those organizations' websites for more information. They'll all be really, really good resources.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Russ.
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah, take her easy.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Later.
Bye.
That really tied in nicely to what we were talking about earlier.
It's funny how those things kind of work
What,
out. Huh?
what were we talking about earlier? I forgot already.
TU's Wild Steelhead Initiative.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like we had a plan.
Oh, yeah?
But we didn't.
But we didn't.
No, we shot from the hip.
We did shoot.
But it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And that's why it did.
It did.
You're exactly
Something
right.
happened.
Yeah.
Something happened.
My foot fell asleep. That happened.
Russian Schnitzer.
That's his nickname now.
Russ is good people.
Seems like good people.
Yeah, I pinged him, I think last year around this time about getting a ride from the airport
But he's
in
singular,
Denver.
so he's like he's good. He's a good person.
He's a good person, yeah.
No.
Well, collectively good people.
Yeah.
But he gave me a ride from DIA to downtown Denver last year just on a whim, so he's willing to drop.
And that's a hell of a drive. Anybody that's
It's
done
not a
that.
fun one.
Denver Airport is not close to Denver.
No.
It's a long ways out there.
Did you pay him for gas?
I tried to, but he refused. Even with the baby on the way, I offered to pay for diapers, and he's like, no.
Nice.
No, that's good. Now, his photography is amazing.
Yeah, he posted.
Yes, I was actually unknowingly looking at some of his photography this morning before the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when we were on I was on a conference call for work, and we were looking at some ideas, for marketing and stuff like that, and we're looking at a lot of shots, and one thing that we really liked, I just looked, and it turned out it was actually Russ's work, so that's how good he is.
You can use those photos. Just,
I'm going to. I'll just Photoshop my products into it.
Yeah, just download them to your desktop.
Control-Alt-4, do a little screenshot, and then make it your... artists don't mind when you do that kind of thing.
No.
No, if it's on the internet, it's yours to use for free. Just
Absolutely.
take it. know.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well,
Yeah. You guys going to go out and enjoy the cold? I'm sorry, we got glasses half full. It's all sunny and nice out.
it is. I prefer this over 20 degrees warmer and wet.
Not me.
No, I would take 20 degrees warmer and sometimes wet.
Yeah.
I'd like 20 degrees warmer and sunny like this.
I'd like to be on a beach drinking Bloody Marys right now. That's what I'd like to be doing.
We got a countdown. My family's going to Hawaii for the first time ever in January.
Oh, yeah.
And my son's going to turn 21 while we're over there.
Nice.
So I'm
So you're going to make sure he's contained on an island when this happens?
exactly, yeah. And more importantly, I got to get myself in shape for that Borat thong that has the straps that come
Oh,
over
right.
the shoulders.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, the Speedo, but
Speedo
you
with
pull it
the-
up over your shoulders.
Yeah.
Like it's a mankini.
mankini. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you from experience, Kirk, that this is going to be a great trip because not only do islanders really love tourists,
Oh, absolutely.
but they love drunk tourists as well. So
Yeah.
get him
So make
shitty.
sure you really mingle with the natives.
Oh yeah,
The locals
definitely.
A lot of those sugar-filled, sweet drinks, so his head feels like it's 800 feet,
Yep.
big.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
get him really
We're
schnockered.
gonna get him really drunk, and then the next day go zip lining.
What island
Or
are you going to be
helicopter
on?
tour.
We're gonna go to Maui.
That's where all the American tourists go.
Maui,
Well, everybody says that if you've never been, go there first, and then if you go back a second time, figure out what you didn't like about Maui, and
Then you can gauge
go
it from
big or
there.
go small.
Yeah. I have a place to stay on Kona. It's not on the big island over in the Kona area. And I'm going to probably go hang out
Kona's a
there
nice
next year.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you got a friend with a house that overlooks the water.
We were just
Everybody needs one of those.
we were just in Kauai in April, and it was really nice there too.
But around where there's some areas near where I'll be where you can fish off the beach and stuff like that. So
nice.
Yeah, you're going to go bone fishing?
no, I'll probably go for really exotic like aquarium fish, and then for GTs and stuff of that nature. Or you can take a kayak for mahi and stuff just right off the shore, or take one of my friends' boats out and go catch like 500-pound yellowfin.
There we go. On a 4-weight. Dry fly.
Indicator, center pin that sucker, dude. Seriously.
Seen that video on the internet of a guy?
You can run that pin to Japan.
Right.
Seen a video on the internet of a guy like in a little rowboat that Kane pulled one of those?
Really?
Oh man, that was intense.
I could just hear Evan like with an 18-mile drift with the center pin out there. Just yeah, but I was 18 miles, dude.
Yeah. Whatever, man. Center pinning's way cooler than nymphing.
I don't like nymphing either, but
Yeah. Well, I don't either, so I did something about it.
Yeah.
I started center pinning because nymphing isn't fun.
there you go.
Last time I tried nymphing, ended up breaking my rod because I got so frustrated with the constant tangles.
You're doing it wrong.
I know I'm doing it wrong, but you know what I don't do wrong? Center pinning.
I never got how you got to get the reel moving before you can cast.
I saw it. I witnessed it firsthand.
Yeah, it works. I can cast that thing a long ways, a really long ways. I can throw it way farther, probably twice as far as I can throw a nymph rig.
That's probably actually bad for conservation because you're reaching fish where they're trying to hold and
Yeah, but I really only use it for fish I'm harvesting.
oh,
So it's good for wild fish.
well then by whatever means necessary then.
Exactly. No, when I'm out grocery shopping, gloves come off. I don't really have standards.
Is there a Tenkara center pin?
10 pin.
10 pin?
Well, considering that center pinning is all because of the reel, I don't know if you can really combine the two.
Centaura. Ooh, that'd be kind of cool. Centaura.
I just use a spay rod and I electrical tape the center pin reel on the upper part of the handle.
I saw that too first.
I'm looking at it right over there.
Yeah.
That's ingenious, but it's dirty.
Super
as,
ghetto.
Dirty as fuck. I mean,
Well, I had a center pin rod, but they're really floppy. I don't like the really soft action of them. I like something a little sturdier, so I use a spay rod.
So is Alan going to develop a center pin rod that's more to your liking?
I'm not opposed to the idea,
Yeah, there we go.
but we're working on like a million other things at the moment, so that's kind of low on the totem pole at the moment.
Yeah,
But yes, I would like to do that.
that would be good.
isn't
In
low
case
on a-
anyone's-
isn't low on a totem pole a good thing? Or I mean, what position on the totem pole isn't lower better, or is higher better?
I don't know. I've always heard lower being like when you're low man on the totem pole, that means you're the one making minimum wage.
Yeah, you're holding all that shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but high man on the totem pole, that doesn't seem that great.
That's always that regal bird with the eagle spirit.
I think depending on your tribe.
Well,
But no, I mean, in case anybody's wondering, I still do fly fish sometimes.
Well, if you're using flies, you're fly fishing, right?
Actually, most of my steelheading, a lot of my steelheading this fall was with a single hander. I just went I haven't caught a spay steelhead or even tried to catch a steelhead on a spay rod since like last February or March. And so I've just been running a single hander and a full floater, like swinging muddler minnows and stuff and catching steelhead. Just went straight old school.
It's because you're so good at it. You're trying to find ways to make it harder to catch.
no, it's because he's got an elbow injury.
Oh, is that it?
That's part of it too. Throwing the spay rod is actually really hard because my nerve, the ulnar nerve in the left elbow, which is like your funny bone, it'll pop out of place if I do it wrong.
Not so funny when that happens.
You should try less metro jacking then.
I should. Yeah.
You get to be my age, you don't even care anymore. Hey, what's on PBS?
That'll work.
What's on Lifetime Channel?
It would have been a good Halloween costume. Would have been a lumber.
Well, there's always next year. Maybe by then it'll pick up and people will get what you're doing.
Yeah. Otherwise, nice shirt.
Yeah, this year I was Maverick. I bought the whole jumpsuit and everything.
Nice.
Very nice.
So anyway, yeah, I was getting at just going back old school. I would say it was my roots, but I didn't start by fly fishing for steelhead that way. But just fishing traditional patterns, old school muddler minnows and stuff on a full floating line, swinging it, and still getting fish to eat. That was a good time. In fact, our friend Dave Henry, who's been on the show a couple times, and I were doing that for 3 days straight, and we had no problem catching fish. So it was sweet.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's very rewarding to have fish come up to the surface.
It's amazing. What time is it right now?
It doesn't. Don't worry about it.
No, it doesn't.
11:24.
Okay, so we basically squeezed or milked, say, a 25-minute show into an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Milk a podcast pocket.
Yeah. Good work, guys. Yeah, we've got an hour and 3 minutes of audio.
Nice.
Very nice.
That doesn't include commercials.
And of quality stuff too. So if you're listening, you've just heard really, really good stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah.
Should we all go our separate ways now?
Yeah.
Until next time.
Probably. I'm going to go home and watch
Lifetime channel.
Russ's film again, and I'm going to watch Damnation again.
Yeah. Oh, we never finished that. We say you found Damnation on the Netflix.
Oh yeah, it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And that is a fine film.
I've heard.
I mean, it's more than 11 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's a full-length feature film, but it's educational. It's got some really good historical information in it. It's eye-opening. I learned some things that I didn't know. And
Sex and violence?
No.
What? And how is that going to be a successful film?
Well, it's a mature thinking man's film, Evan. We don't always have to have sex and violence. There is some.
I'll try.
There is some nudity.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
It works.
but you got to watch it to see it.
Oh.
And it's 30-year-old footage, maybe 40-year-old footage.
What, the nude people are 30 years old or 40 years old? Or it's...
Glen Canyon, back before they flooded it.
Gotcha. Not like 30-year-old nude people, but...
No, at the time, which was 30 or 40 years ago.
They may have been 30 or 40.
Right.
Gotcha.
So
Now they'd be 70.
yeah, don't want to see it now. But anyway, yeah, Damnation, splendid film. Watch it, Netflix. If you don't have Netflix, I did notice that they're offering like a 1-month free trial. So sign up for free, watch the movie, and then don't subscribe after that.
All right, guys. Well, let's go do whatever it is we do when we're not doing this.
3, 2, 1.
Where'd we go?
Short break.
All right. Bye. All right. Bye. All right. Bye. All right. Bye.